we live? Are we live? Are we live? Because I clicked end broadcast by mistake. So tell me if I'm live, because if I'm not, I'm fucked. It says I'm live, so yeah. Tell me if I'm live, please. If I'm not, I've made a big, massive fuck up. Waiting for the comments. I'm pretty sure I'm live. It says 5 people watching. You are live. Thank you, Dan. Dan Sean's in the chat already, and so is Big T, and so Jamie. I've never had such a big waiting for like such a shitty stream as this before. And Lorne as well. Thank you very much, Lorne. Dan. Yeah, there's a few people who just like been waiting. Well, not waiting. Maybe jumped on. But yeah, thank you very much for waiting to jump on and waiting to listen to the shit I've got to say. I'll try and be sober. I've had a few drinks. Yeah, I do have most streams I do. I'm generally merry to drunk. Tonight it's kind of drunk, pretty much. A bottle of wine and like 3 large bottles of Corona. So yeah, I mean, it's not like I've got a drinking problem. It's just kind of like this is what I need to do to stream live because I'm just so fucked up. But yeah, I'm still compos mentis. I still know what I'm doing. Yeah, Big T says I think you're live. So sorry, we're talking about the Screen TV show, are we? I've missed the beginning of the conversation. We see and hear you, Mike. Yeah, oh, that's good. That's good. Howdy, Darren. Jay, what's up, man? Fucking hell, this is crazy. A lot of people in the chat. A lot of people in the chat tonight. So I don't want to like fucking. Every fucking night, every time I'd like try and do a stream, I would try and like keep it like sort of try, get some sort of like story. Story. That's not the right word. Just I want topics. I want to, like 3 or 4 topics to go on, and then last night Scott Hall died, so I kind of like have to just include this because I know it's a big deal for a lot of you guys, and it's a big deal for me as well because like Scott Hall was like a big part of like growing up, like back in the 90s, like. And this, if you're not interested in wrestling, I understand. You can check out for like 5 minutes. It's not going to take long. This is just like me, a 5 to 10 minute segment on like what it meant for me growing up in terms of like wrestling. And it's not necessarily about Scott Hall per se. It's just about, I've never really talked about like wrestling so much on live streams or it at all, really. So anybody who grew up in the UK will know that like professional wrestling, in terms of American professional wrestling, we didn't really know much about American wrestling up until like the very late 80s, early 90s. We might have known about Hulk Hogan because of like because of Rocky 3. And we had a vague awareness of like American wrestling with like Hulk Hogan, and maybe we had a vague awareness of WrestleMania. But in terms of like in general, our wrestling in the 80s was just like this shitty British wrestling with like Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks, which you don't want to really go into that because it's not very it's a bit shit. But what happened in the UK was in the very late 80s, a company called Sky Television, they bought the rights to WWF. So in the very late 80s, around about the same time as The Simpsons, The Simpsons was kind of like correlates almost perfectly with the WWF in terms of like making its way into British households. And obviously, The Simpsons came around in '89. I'm aware that obviously WWF wrestling was around throughout the 80s, but the fact that they both came into British like households at the same time, the Simpsons had a massive impact on British society as it did around the world, and but also so did WWF wrestling. I mean, you know, as a kid growing, as a kid, like as a 14-year-old kid in like 1990 going into 91, it's like that's when WWF really like sort of like became a thing to me, because I think Sky TV, who bought WWF, the rights to it in the late 80s, they first started showing it on like satellite TV, which I suppose what you call cable TV in America, in 89, 90. And it's like 1990 stroke 91 is when a lot of my friends started getting cable TV, satellite TV, and that's when WWF became a really big deal in the UK. And in my school, when I was like sort of like 13, 14, it just became a big deal. And because we didn't know that it was fake, we stupidly, although I knew that British wrestling was fake because my dad had told me, when this new wrestling came out, this was like a new thing to me. I didn't know that this wrestling, American wrestling, was like as old as British wrestling. I thought this was just like this new fangled, crazy thing that was like real. And Ultimate Warrior was really being sick because Papa Shango put a curse on him, and people getting pile drived onto the head. They were really getting hit, well, in some cases they actually did get hurt, but it's just that for the longest time, we didn't know in Britain. We were watching, WWF, thinking, for the first 6 months, I thought this was real, and it was only like after like 6 to 12 months, it's like as I started to watch more and more of it, I thought, oh yeah, this is just like the British wrestling. This is all scripted. But by this point, I was sucked. I was sucked in. I was just like on board with this completely, and everybody in my school, like 15, 14 years old. This is like 1981. So we're talking like WrestleMania 6, around that era. We were totally on board. And like by WrestleMania 7, I mean, we're talking like we're talking the end of the Hulk Hogan era, going into like the sort of Ultimate Warrior era. Ultimate Warrior was already a big star, but going more into his era as like the major star. And obviously then we go into the Undertaker just started to become a thing as well. But that was basically my sort of, I mean, what that's got to do with Razor Ramones, aka Hall, nothing. But I just want to basically say, like, wrestling meant something in the 1990s. Wrestling meant a lot to me, and Scott Hall played a big part in that. Razor Ramon, like his debut in '92 on Monday Night Raw, through to the NWO, and like there was a point I wanted to try and make it, because I wanted to try and tie in horror movies to, and specifically slasher movies, to wrestling, which I know sounds like a bit of a reach, but for me, it's kind of like wrestling in the 90s was kind of like the slasher movies of the 80s or horror movies of the 80s. And that may not make much sense when I say it like that, but in terms of my perspective in the UK, and I'm sure like anybody's perspective around the world, the 80s horror, in the 80s, wrestling was kind of like, it was a big deal to a certain demographic, but it was still underground. And in the 90s, the door was just kicked in, and like wrestling became mainstream for a lot of people. And I kind of like correlate that to the slasher movies of the 70s, or horror movies in general, because like in the 70s, horror movies were like a big thing for like a certain demographic. Certain people loved, horror movies and slasher movies per se, but it was in the 80s that the door was kicked in, and like horror movies and slasher movies became mainstream. And I kind of feel like the same thing happened with wrestling, professional wrestling, in the 90s. The 80s was kind of like more your hardcore underground fan. But in the 90s, especially around 96, when the NWO obviously kicked off and it started the Monday Night Wars, that was just like the beginning of like a whole new generation of like, wrestling became mainstream again. I mean, okay, you could argue it was mainstream in the early 90s, certainly because like a lot of people in the UK like me got on board, but certainly 96 when WWF had like become the mainstream and they'd taken over and it was becoming stale. When WCW like took over Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan and formed the NWO, that's when it became exciting again. And the 90s, if slasher films could be summed up in a decade, you would say the 80s. But for most people, if you talk about wrestling and sum it up into a decade, I mean, 90s is for me is just a decade that it just became. It kind of like joined the mainstream briefly, and it became something beyond what it even aimed to achieve almost because it became so big. But I mean, that's just my opinion. What do you guys think? I mean, I can't overstate the importance of the Monday Night Wars, and I'm just going to go back on some of these comments because I've missed so many comments. You're unalive, Lawn. Oh, Lawn's being mischievous there, I think. I don't know what that even means. Dan's in the chat. What's up? Obviously, Jay. I've said hello to Jay. Jamie. I think I said hello to Jay. Daniel. I did like the Screen TV series. I've not even seen it, Dan. Sean's in the chat. Hey, Dan. Will hardly anybody live streams anymore. I do. Come on, Sean. No. Let's be fair. I live stream every week. Dan live streams every fucking day almost. Well, I'm not sure. Well, some not always live streams, but some are like pre-recorded. Christian's always live streaming. Piers live streams quite a lot. Unless you're talking about like just tiny people like me who just live stream, to like. I mean, I'm not sure how many big YouTubers are live streaming now. Maybe not that many. Hayden fondles people in VR at least once or twice a week. Yeah. Hayden, those Hayden's live streams are just. I'll wake up at like 7:00 in the morning. I'm just like wake up and it's just Hayden playing poker in virtual reality, and I'm like, I'm just lost. I don't even know what to think. I don't even know how you go about doing that. I mean, I can barely manage to like put this live stream together. How you even like do that, I don't know. It's probably not that difficult, but I'm thick and I'm lazy, so I can't be bothered. Ben Grimm's in the chat. What's up, Ben? Ben says hello. The VR streams are fun. Yeah, they are fun. I just don't know what the hell's going on, and I don't know how. I'd like to know how you do it because that'd be interesting. The VR streams make me dizzy. Yeah, probably Dan. That wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, 90s attitude, yeah, boy, yeah. The 90s was just like different level. I mean, can you imagine the 90s now attitude era, like with this PC sort of do-gooder attitude now? I mean, wrestling's kind of escaped the whole like woke culture to a point, and I hope it always does, because my God, can you imagine like woke wrestling? Holy shit. I mean, they've gone that way a little bit in WWE with like a woke wrestler, but he's a joke and the joke's on him. And Vince McMahon is famously anti-woke. So I'd like to think that the joke, Vince McMahon just thought, you know what, get this little fucking knobhead, fucking woke guy, and we'll put him in there and just make a tit of himself and we'll make fun of him. Because, there's no place for woke culture in wrestling. Fucking hell, there's no place for woke culture in movies or TV or wrestling or anything. Jesus Christ. Big team, I cut the tail end at you there. But you got the best. Well, you got some of it at least. Dances. My earliest memories involve Pro Wrestling and Vincent Price. So no, it's nice. I was like Hogan. Hogan is, Hogan. He's not the greatest wrestler of all time. I think most people would accept that. But in terms of like icons in the business, I will always say that Hulk Hogan is the most famous wrestler of all time. And people say, no, Steve Austin or The Rock. Well, no, because if you were to go to any, like, the simple test would be, for me, would be if I showed a picture of like Steve Austin or the Rock to my mum, she wouldn't have a fucking clue who they were. If I showed a picture of Hulk Hogan to her, she may not be able to name him completely, but she'd know who he was. And I would say that's the same for like, anyone, like, go across the United States. But if you, like, all you guys, girls in the States and in the UK, show a picture of Steve Austin or The Rock or Hulk Hogan to like an elderly relative, who would they recognize the most? I reckon it probably be Hulk Hogan. I mean, okay, I would say I'd give The Rock a close second, because I think The Rock has clearly exceeded Austin now in terms of fame, because The Rock is far more famous than Steve Austin, obviously, because just the fact he's a movie star now. But in terms of in terms of the wrestling business, I'd still say Hulk Hogan is like the most famous wrestler of all time. I think that's just a fact. I don't think anyone would. Okay, you could argue with it, but I'd just say go to like ask elderly relatives if they recognise who Steve Austin is compared to Hulk Hogan. I think most people would say Hulk Hogan. Jonathan's in the chat as well. Jonathan, what's up, man? Good to see you on board, man. Yeah, Jonathan says, yeah, it's well. We stream all day. Yeah, I miss those days, man. I have to. That's why I feel like I've got to stream now, because it's like I used to fucking adore those fucking crazy live streams. I mean, back in the day, man. And when I say back in the day, I'm talking about like we're talking like November, December, January, February 20 into 21. We're not talking that long ago. I think it was COVID, wasn't it, man? It was COVID. Everyone was just live streaming. That's why I started live streaming. That's why I started doing Piz's live streams, because it was just like it was COVID, and I just got a taste for it. But I just fucking, I remember those. Oh my god, those that late 2020, early 2021. I just got. It's like Jonathan, Jonathan, Dan, Hayden, Steak, Jay, Jess, Christian. It's like those crazy like late night live streams where it's like who the fuck knows what's going to happen? Al would jump on it, be like a fucking clusterfuck, and death threats and shit like that. Oh my god, the funniest thing, I think I've told this story before, right? I'm going completely off topic, but fucking who cares? I think it was S'mores Indoors, so it was Corey had done a live stream with you. I think you and Jonathan, you were on it as well. And I think obviously Dan was on, and Caden was definitely on, Steak was on, Jess was on. It was like the fucking holy trinity of like, live streamers at that time. The people I just fucking love watching. And Al jumped on, and obviously you had this big fucking meltdown from Al. And then obviously, you're all just like fucking ripping him to pieces. And then he jumped back on, and this, that, and the other. But the funny thing is that I completely missed the live stream. So I'd basically gone to bed. This live stream happened like probably like 3 o'clock in the morning. So I'd gone to bed, like midnight. Woke up, checked YouTube, checked subscriptions, who's uploaded. I was like, oh well, Corey's uploaded. Oh, S'mores indoors. I'll watch that. I'll start watching that. Went downstairs, put on, the smart TV, whatever. I thought I'll watch it on the TV. Started watching it, and then the funny thing was, obviously, I was watching it, and then obviously Al jumps on, and it all goes fucking crazy. And I'm like, oh my god, this is fucking nuts. But then I had to go out, so I paused the TV. I had to go out and I think I had to drop my wife off at work or something. I can't remember. Come back. It's still on the TV, but you know what? I'll just watch it on me. I've got a few things there. I'll watch the rest of the stream on my phone. So, fire up YouTube, go on my phone, and the fucking stream's disappeared. I'm like, oh shit, he's fucking taking the stream down. Oh shit. So have I missed the end of the stream? And I realised that the fucking stream is still paused on YouTube on the TV. I think if I back out of that live stream now, I'm never ever going to see that fucking live stream again. So I walk up to the TV and I'm like, fucking, it's still on pause. I think, don't press back, don't press TV, don't press anything. Just press the pause button again, I think, is what I'm like, yeah, unpause. And I was able to rest the rest of the stream. And I was like, oh my fucking days, man. That was a fucking insane stream. That just sums up 2021 in a nutshell. Fucking crazy streams. But yeah, and obviously the stream did end up getting put back up again a few months later. But that was a funny story. I just think that was so. Oh my god, that was such a. It was such a funny time. Oh my god. Yeah, hang on, just going back to the comments now because I'm just totally on a roll with that one. Jesus, I miss it. It definitely kept us saying during the pandemic, Dan's going to be live tomorrow. Dan's always live. Dan, anyone who says there's no live streaming, Dan's always live every fucking night. And he will be doing a live. He will be giving his opinions on X, which I am really looking forward to because X looks the fucking shit. It looks so good. Although it is filmed in New Zealand, which we'll get to. Jonathan says, I miss it too. We should make a point to do it at least once a week on everyone's channels, different channels every week. I agree. Yeah, fucking definitely, man. It's just a good. It's so good, man. It's just Big T says Hogan gave a nice speech at his beach shop yesterday. I did see that. Yeah, I did see that, Big T. It's got heel from that's got whole restaurant with Hogan. Yeah, he fucking did as well, man. Dan says I don't care who hosts. I'd probably be too terrified to host a live stream with about 4 or 5 other people. I don't mind doing 2 or 3, but I don't know. James says, I missed the group live streams. It's not easy to stream on your own. I talk with the chat out. Yeah, Jamie, I understand totally. There's something quite terrifying about starting a live stream when you're the only person talking. And the idea that you come on live and there's nobody in the chat. And then, I did a live stream about 6 months ago and I wasn't prepared. I didn't have anything to talk about as well. And I was going to do one of those, those countdown, tier ranking videos. But there was nobody in the chat, and I didn't prep for it, so I didn't really know what I was doing. And after 10 minutes, I just shut the stream down. I was so pissed off with myself. And I was so angry. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I've done that. And the fact that nobody jumped on immediately, kind of knocked me for 6, the confidence. But I should never have just ended the stream like that. It's just sometimes you just start a stream and there's nobody there. It's just the way it is. Fucking hell. I'm fucking privileged to have as many people watching as there are, if there's 4 people watching, I'm fucking privileged. I love it. I'm just so glad that people want to jump on and just listen to me chat shit. But it's more than that, because I know that it's more than that. It's the conversation that goes on in the chat as well is important to people, and that's what that's part of what I love more than anything, is like when I go on a live stream, it's not so much interacting with the actual streamer, it's interacting with the people in the chat. Whoever's in doing the stream, it's Christian or Nick or Dan or whoever. I interact with them, but I love interacting with the people in the stream people who I've known throughout the last couple of years. So it's all good. I mean, but yeah, as I say, COVID definitely brought a lot of people together. I mean, a lot of people weren't communicating with each other before COVID, and if COVID created one good thing out of this, it was just bringing a bunch of people together, because before COVID, all you guys were kind of just like names on a stream, on like Pizza's stream or another stream, and then obviously I just got into all your channels, and so yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Um, that was the attitude era of ours. It fucking was as well. That definitely was the attitude era. I don't think that it's too politically correct now. We need to get back to the attitude era. We need to bring Al back. I'd have Al on my channel in a heartbeat. If he turned up on my channel in just if I put a link out and he turned up, I guarantee, because I mean he's ratings, isn't he? Because if I had him on, if he turned up in the chat and I put him in the live stream, obviously you guys would all jump on in the live stream as well, and he's box office. He's box office for us anyway. He's not box office in the mainstream, but he's box office for us because he does generate views because he's so batshit crazy. I'm gonna eat that. It was a Cinemax era. That's it. I discovered Hayden via the Gabby potato stream he did. I've been hooked ever since due to hilarious something. I'm not sure what. A guy shoved a glue stick up his ass on one shot. Yeah, I was lucky enough to miss that one. I don't really want to see that one, to be honest with you. It takes a while to a live hanging stream. Once people increase it, know they will come. Yeah, I mean that is true. Yeah, definitely. A guy took a shit on my stream all the time. Who's the guy, Jay? Is it your stream or Hayden's stream where I think some guy from like Australia spent like about 3 hours saying absolutely nothing and just doing like mimes? He was like doing stuff with his hands, and you were talking to him and he was just like not answering. I think he was Australian, but oh my god. Yeah, it was just the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And this is one of your late streams. So I was watching it. This was like 8 o'clock in the morning for me. It's probably like 3 in the morning for you. God knows what time. I suppose it'd be like middle of the afternoon for that guy. But Jonathan says, Mike, you're legitimately one of the nicest, most wholesome people I met online. Oh, thank you, John. Thank you, Jonathan. That means a lot, man. Yeah, you too, man. You too. I mean, every time you should stream more often, man, because every time you stream like at a reasonable time for me. Usually like sort of like 9 o'clock at night. So I'm always on board when you stream, but you need to stream more often, man. As I say, I'd be far, I'd be on Pizza streams far more often, but Piz streams at like 2 in the morning. That's just like I can't do that. I mean. Dancers, we thought it was something until we finally feel himself. Hayden and Jay Pimp is my masterpiece face. I stay until then. I can't get enough. We sent some shirts. Right. Okay. So I'm caught up at the topics now. So I'm just going to go into the next topic because, like, I spent like half an hour, like, just talking about, well, really not much. I mean, just talking to you guys, but so we should get into X. It drops Friday, maybe Thursday for you guys. The reviews are positive as hell. I mean, this film looks the shit. Okay, I'm basing it on a trailer, but looking at reviews, and reviews from the left and the right side, the political spectrum, because the lefties seem to like it. People on the right side seem to like it. That sounds good to me, because I'm always a bit wary about like some of these films, like I'm a bit wary about like, the reviews to come through. If BuzzFeed like it, that could mean it's just some sort of, democratic friendly film. And if Fox News like it could be like, a Republican friendly film. Most websites now have an agenda. If a film is political in any way, they'll probably go negative or positive. So, but this film just seems to be getting like really positive reviews on all sides, and I'm just like down for this film. Unfortunately, I won't be able to watch it opening weekend, because I'm going on holiday, aka vacation, on Saturday. So it's probably going to be a week until I can see it. But it's looking damn fucking good. Like the reviews coming in are so promising, and it's almost like, could this be? I did put a tweet out the other day. Could this be like the best? I didn't word it quite like this, but could this be the best Texas Chainsaw Massacre film of 2022, which is not a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film? Possibly, although it's filmed in New Zealand, which I just found out, and I'm like, just how on earth did they get a film set in New Zealand to look like a film set in Texas? Because it looks like I'm no expert. Like, okay, I will say out the gate now, the trailer looks fucking glorious. In terms of like the way the time period, like 79, looks just on point. And Ty West obviously did House of the Devil, which is like 80, I think it's meant to be set in about 82, 83. It just nails it. He just nails that early 80s look. This film is meant to be set in the like late 70s, and to me, it looks like it nailed that late 70s look to a T. But I don't understand how they filmed this film in New Zealand, because I can't think of a possible situation where New Zealand can possibly double as Texas, because New Zealand is never fucking sunny. I'm not from New Zealand. I'm from like fucking 12,000 miles away. But New Zealand for me is Lord of the Rings. It's snowy, it's green, it's cloudy, it's rainy. And I've seen other shit set in New Zealand, and I've never seen anything set in New Zealand where it resembles, sun-scorched, landscapes and just, farmhouses. It looks on point from what I've seen in the trailer, but holy shit! I mean, Bulgaria is starting to look like a really more sensible option, because New Zealand is the last place I would go. But I mean, I could be wrong. I mean, I'll clearly I am wrong, because obviously they've going by the reviews, they've done a really good job. In terms of the storyline and the setup, and no one's mentioned like the fact that it looks out of place. No one said it doesn't look like Texas, so I can only assume they've done a really good job. But I mean, my question is, how expensive is it to film in Texas? And that's a serious question. Is Texas like? I could understand like if you're going to film in like New York or LA, there's going to be maybe a lot of expense there, because it's just where it is. But like Texas, I mean, can you not just find some like random fucking? I mean, Texas is a big place, big fucking place. Can you not like just find some random land and just film on it? Why do you need to go to New Zealand? I mean, you go into like one of the furthest places on earth from Texas to film a film set in Texas. It just seems a bit of a strange decision. And come on, think about the environments. You're flying over people, flying over equipment, on planes. Come on, Hollywood, you can do better. Come on. Yeah. So if someone can explain to me why Texas is not a feasible idea for filming, because I don't really understand. I can understand you're not going to film like right by Houston or Austin, whatever, but some like backwater, middle of nowhere town. Surely to God you can film there. Surely they'd be grateful for you to come over and film some shit there, wouldn't you? I mean, I would have thought so. Go back to the comments. Jay says, yes, mate, that was Fox Picture Media. New Zealand. Yeah, you had a thing with trouble. They made a prequel to X, did they? Really? I must have missed that. Well, that's good. I mean, that's interesting. Oh my God, there's some streamers going. Okay. Send the POS project. It's bad that I know those films. I know those films. It's a bit worrying. Damn, these people, but I definitely didn't like it. Texas. Yeah. I was gonna say it's just Texas, really. Yeah, Australia. I could have seen Australia. I could have seen Australia as Texas, but New Zealand is totally different climate. It's totally different. Like, well, I mean, okay. Obviously, I'm wrong. Obviously, there are parts of New Zealand which are not like that. I'm just a thick, stupid European Englander. So I don't understand New Zealand. I apologise to anyone from New Zealand who watches this video. I thought New Zealand was like, cloudy, green, wet, and not at all deserty like Texas. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Forgive me. But yeah, but at the end of the day, yeah, X is looking very, very promising. I am really looking forward to it. I just think it just looks. But I mean, this could be, the answer to people who weren't that keen on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre film. Set a film in Texas, which is not set in Texas, well, not filmed in Texas, but is very gory with a good plot line. I'm just on board. So on to the next topic. So obviously it's the 40th anniversary of The Thing this year. 1982. Obviously, everybody's thoughts on The Thing. The Thing is obviously, in my opinion, the greatest. Well, this is a tough one. Sci-fi. Is it John Carpenter's greatest film of all time? I'd still say Halloween. Halloween's the GOAT for me. But is this the greatest sci-fi horror film of all time? This runs it. I mean, are we going to compare it to Alien? Because Aliens, for me, is just a sci-fi action film. In terms of sci-fi horror, it's this. Alien and The Thing are kind of like, neck and neck. I don't really know. For me, The Thing topped Alien. I just think I just like that. It's hard to say why I like this film more. Maybe it's the Carpenter effect. I just love the soundtrack. I like Kurt Russell as the lead. I love Sigourney Weaver in Alien, but I prefer her in Aliens. I just like the dynamic of the group in Alien, in The Thing more than Alien. I just think it's a better combination. But yeah, it just got made aware to me that it's the 40th anniversary of The Thing, and just in terms of like, so every time I try and something is made aware to me, like in terms of the topic, and originally I was going to say, well, my thoughts on The Thing, and well, obviously I can do that because I do love The Thing, but I want to like turn it into like some sort of a kind of a topic. And I think what struck me is when I just thought of The Thing from '82 is it got me thinking, like, in terms of like a director's run of like quality films. Now this is where you guys come in, because I honestly struggled to find an equal for Carpenter's run from like 76 to 82 in terms of just sheer quality of output. And that's where you guys come in, because when it comes to movies, I'm pretty much a normie. I do like horror films. I do like a lot of action films. I do like a lot of shit. But I'm very much aware that you guys, Dan, Lord, especially in the chat, you guys are fucking like connoisseurs of movies, and I'm just thinking, when it comes to like that run that Carpenter had in from Assault on Precinct 13 through to The Thing in '82, I think that run of films is just like so on point. Like I just think if any director, I'm sure there are directors who had a run like that, but for me, that's the noticeable run of films for me as into the sort of movies I'm into. It's like that run is just like unprecedented. I mean, I love like the Scorsese stuff, but I don't think he had a Mean Streets, Raging Bull, but I think he had a couple of like duffers in between that, and then going into like some of his later stuff. And Spielberg as well. I think he had 1941 in between, and 1941 isn't. I don't think it's a particularly good film. I think he had that in between. I think Temple of Doom and like Close Encounters. I just think like Carpenter, Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween. Okay, I mean, some people point at The Fog. I love The Fog. The Thing, you know, I'm missing one as well. What am I missing? Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween, The Fog, The Thing. I'm not going to include Christine because I don't think Christine is all that. What film am I missing from Carpenter? Halloween, The Fog, The Thing. I'm missing like two films. I'm missing two films, aren't I? Obviously, Assault on Precinct 13. Sorry, Assault on Precinct 13, Halloween. Oh, Escape from New York. Yeah, Escape from. Sorry, yeah, Dan, you're right on. Escape from New York. As much as I love Big Trouble in Little China, I was actually, because of what I regard as like because I regard Christine as kind of like a bit of a downward turn. I don't really include going into that because I think it's a return to form. But for me, Christine was like a big downer. I didn't like Christine that much at all. So when I talk about run of films, I mean, for me, it's like it's Assault on Precinct 13 through to The Thing, because I mean, I know people love Christine, but for me, oh my god, I just no, not. I mean, I wasn't a big fan. I mean, I do like Big Trouble in Little China. I do like that film. I don't think it's up there with the level of it's certainly not on par with The Thing, or obviously it's certainly not Halloween. It's certainly not The Thing. It's certainly not even The Fog for me. Although a lot of people would say that Big Trouble in Little China is far better than The Fog. But I mean, we are. But in terms of like that output, like from the late 70s and mid 70s into the early 80s, I just, there are obviously people who've put out an output of films which are on par with that. I don't dispute that. It's each to his own as well. At the end of the day, it's each to his own. A lot of people would say Spielberg put out, 5 or 6 flawless films on the run. I would dispute that. People would say that Scorsese did the same thing. I would dispute that. For me, Carpenter put out, 5 films, 4 or 5 maybe, that were just, for me, classics of the genre, classics of any genre, classics period. But I mean, obviously, it's all it's how you interpret like a classic movie, and I do think that like, people in our like sort of what's the word, vicinity, society, I don't know, but anyway, people who like in our circles, I think we kind of like we're on the kind of same wavelength. So even though I'm not a big fan of Big Trouble in Little China as much as some of the other films, I think a lot of people obviously love Big Trouble in Little China. I think a lot of people love They Live. even though that's not for me. I'm not a big fan of They Live. I love Prince of Darkness. I mean, I adore Prince of Darkness. I think it's just that was a real return to form for Carpenter. In the Mouth of Madness, no. I mean, I think by the time we get into the 90s, he's kind of on the wane then. In all fairness, but you know, for me, Carpenter could have retired after like 1982 with The Thing, and you know that body of work would have been just immaculate, you know. But anyway, I think that's about it. I mean, I've covered, I think, more or less what I wanted to cover tonight. You know, it's a shorter stream than usual, but you know, it's like I didn't really sort of come into the stream with like anything planned. It was just kind of, you know, the whole show, you know, the whole Scott Hall thing was just completely took me by surprise. That just like got thrown in. That was just like a big shocker. And obviously, you know, there's not really been that much going on in the world of like horror like the last week or so. You know, X obviously is the big one that drops Friday, and unfortunately, I'm not going to be live next week because I'm going to be on holiday vacation. But so 2 weeks from now, there's going to be a lot to talk about. Plus, Piz's live stream is on Thursday, so touch wood, I should be on that. But hopefully, you know, come back in 2 weeks. There's going to be a lot more to talk about. But for everyone in the chat, I mean, as always, the chat's tonight's been fucking great, man. Dan, Ben, I know Jay was in there, Big T, Jamie, who else was in there? Jonathan, Bombastic Reviews. I think DJ was in there as well. I think DJ was there as well. But yeah, I mean, great chat as well. As always, amazing, man. So that's going to be it for tonight, anyway, guys. And I will see you on Thursday if you're watching Piz's Patreon stream. And other than that, I'll be back in 2 weeks where we'll be talking X in more depth and a lot more stuff. Anyway, thank you, guys. It's been a pleasure. I will see you later. Bye.